It is known as the Srebrenica massacre. Today in Bosnia, thousands of people stopped to remember what happened 30 years ago. It was the first recognized case of genocide in Europe after the Second World War. So far, about 7,000 victims have been identified and buried, while about 1,000 are still missing. The remains of 7 victims of the massacre were laid to rest during today's official commemorations. Located in the east of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Srebrenica was overrun by Bosnian Serb fighters in 1995. More than 8,000 Bosniak Muslim men and boys were executed in just a few days. Serbs in both Bosnia and Serbia still refuse to acknowledge the massacre as genocide, and that's despite rulings by 2 United Nations courts.
An imam leads the Salat al-Janazah, the Islamic funeral prayer. After 30 years, relatives of more genocide victims get to bury their loved ones and to say goodbye. Thousands have come for this year's commemoration of the Srebrenica massacre. Since last year, 7 more victims have been identified. They are now being laid to rest next to almost 7,000 buried at the Srebrenica Memorial Center.
I'd like to dream about them, but it doesn't work. I've said 1,000 times, "Come, my children, come into my dream." I say that when I pray, when I come here, but it doesn't work.
Dignitaries arrive from around the world to mark the day and gather for speeches and recorded messages from abroad. A Bosnian Muslim survivor of Srebrenica has a message for them.
And as I stand here before you, I appeal to you. Help us fight against hatred, against injustice, against killings, against rape, against expulsion. As I stand here, many mothers in Ukraine and Palestine are going through what we went through in 1995.
Back in 1995, in a bid to hide traces of the atrocities, Bosnian Serb forces threw their victims in several mass graves in the area. But the remains are slowly being dug out and identified. And next year, more will be laid to rest at this ever-expanding cemetery.
For more now, I'm joined by Arnesa Buljusmic-Kustura. She's a Bosniak genocide scholar, educator, and writer, and she joins us tonight from London. Ms. Kustura, it's good to have you with us. I know for most of us this is history, but for you, this is personal history. You lived under the siege in Sarajevo when you were a little girl. Some of your relatives, I understand, were killed during the war. What does this day mean to you?
First, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for covering the anniversary of the Bosnian genocide. I mean, I think for me, today is a reminder, obviously, of the atrocities that occurred, the horrors that occurred, and those are with us on a daily basis. If you survive the Bosnian genocide, you are unable to really, truly ever forget it. It's with you on the daily. However, I think days like this, these commemorations, they give us a bit of strength. They show us that we're not quite alone. There are still people out there who are thinking about us, who join these marches. There are people, I think it also gives us strength to keep going, to keep speaking out against injustice, against genocide denialism. Against the atrocities that are currently being perpetrated in the Middle East, as well as in Ukraine, really throughout the world. Commemorations are really important, but they're not enough. Bosnia, I believe, must be used in every classroom, courtroom, and crisis room as a case study in what happens when early warning signs are ignored and moral courage is absent.
Do you think that the UN General Assembly's decision to make July 11th International Day of Remembrance, is it enough to ensure that the erosion of time does not turn Srebrenica into something that will be forgotten?
I think it's a good first step. I think it's very important. Obviously, there was a prior vote at the Security Council, which was vetoed by Russia. But I think, being recognized by the UN General Assembly has been it has been immensely important for all survivors of the Bosnian genocide, because again, it shows us, okay, people are not forgetting us, right? They're not forgetting our voices, our stories. We're still in people's minds, but it's still just a first step. I think it's really, really important to remember that Bosnia did not happen in the Bosnian genocide did not happen in the shadows, right? Srebrenica was a UN protected safe zone. Sarajevo was technically a safe zone as well, but we were under siege. Foča, there was lots of other safe zones as well. And there was cameras there, and people saw what was happening.
Yes.
And politicians knew what was happening, and yet they continued to allow it to happen for many, many years until finally they intervened and said enough is enough. But it took some time. So I do think that the UN General Assembly decision, the recognition of the Bosnian genocide, or specifically the Srebrenica genocide, is immensely important, but it's not the end-all, be-all.
Yeah. And of course, there is the topic of reconciliation, and we'll have to wait for another day to talk about that, but I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to do that. Arnesa Kustura, we appreciate you taking the time to share your memories and to share your thoughts on this day. Thank you.